Hey everybody, it's Jillian. So you're looking on my Facebook, don't mind the hair here, that I covered about smoke and about California wildfires and how smoke is a carrier force for viruses, which is why people who get a lot of smoke inhalation, not only from the smoke, from all the particles clogging up their lungs, but also the viruses that are hitched onto the smoke particles. No different than pollen and no different than burning bodies afflicted by viral entities. And so it's interesting. So I called up one of the Ohio crematory societies and asked them how they release the smoke that when they burn the bodies. And they say, first she said, well, it goes through a smokestack. I'm like, oh, really? Okay. Just open like that. Just know, well, first it goes through filters. She couldn't tell me what kind of filters, but she says it goes through filters and there are strict EPA standards that measure and make sure that the parts per million of whatever it is that's toxic to a population is being adhered to, that they have the correct filters in place and that it's up to date. And so I'm like, oh, that makes sense. So so now I understand why, this virus has been now all over the world, because in the beginning, China burned the bodies of people that were afflicted and they were openly burning them. And so of course it carries through the jet stream and then goes all the way all over the world. And that's where then, yes, you have a type of panspermia. Okay. And so you have to understand what viruses are. Viruses hitch on, they need a host. They have particles and they hitch onto particles and microbes, water. They hitch on to cellular types of biodiversity. They hitch on to anything that gives them some room to be, to ride on the back of. Now, how long they last in that method, like a smoke particle or a pollen particle, is relative to, where that pollen is being, if that pollen's be on the ground, okay, but then you have animals and you have humans that are inhaling. So I remember when I first got afflicted by the COVID a month or so ago, it was during the very windy time and there was a lot of pollen in the air. And so I was sneezing like you would not believe. I'm like, why is this springtime? This allergy season so intense? Oh, well, no shit. The virus is hitching on to these pollen particles because yes, it's in the air and yes, it's being carried around the globe by people openly burning, about, people breathing in and out, people communing together. So you're never going to get away from these viruses, you guys. You have to realize this. There's so many variants. It's insane. And they hitch on to smoke. They hitch on to pollen. They hitch on to rain. Okay. And that's the whole point of panspermia. Panspermia is just the life, the microbiome used by the wind and energy to then carry life into different places and upgrade the environment. But is it really an upgrade to people who can't handle it? No, it's a downgrade because they have deficits. Okay, so when I called up the crematorium society and asked them how they did it, yeah, there's strict EPA standards. Okay, so I'm telling you guys, EPA knows exactly what the hell they're doing. And so when you are demonizing the three-letter agencies, the FDA, the EPA, the CDC, all that stuff, you don't realize that there are measures put in place. In first worlds, they make sure that when you openly burn a body, it's not being openly burned, out there being released. It goes through filters. Imagine if they did that in China. Would we have this global pandemic where everyone is being afflicted? Though some people deny the virus exists, well, those people are completely ignorant. I don't deal with people who deny the virus exists. How you react to viruses are a whole completely different story. And everyone has their theory on how they should react to a virus. But I'm telling you, you're not going to get away from dealing with these upgrades, with this new evolution. You're not going to get away with it, with dealing with them. And how you deal with them is going to be relative to whether you're going to live a long time or whether you're going to shorten your lifespan. And so my jelly juice evolution, jelly juice, instead of the protocol, it's the mentality. At some point, you should get off the jelly juice, especially if you've been on it for the last 4 years, because now you must evolve to this environment. And so I know there's a lot of variants that are going to say there's going to be more variants in the future. I'm prepared for it because I've dealt with the COVID in its most rawest form without taking anything. I may have done one shot of J juice because I wasn't sure how this cough was going to affect me when I was coughing so bad. But then I took that 1 or 2 shots and that was it. And I allowed my body to cough and get everything out. And so when I go out, into the public, when I go to the store, I know things are carried by the wind, so I'm not completely in a bubble. But when I go to a store where there's a bunch of people around, no one's wearing masks. Ohio, they lift the mask mandate. I felt a little bit of heat yesterday. I was watching some movies. I was watching actually 28 Days Later and about the rage virus. I'm like, oh, the rage virus, interesting. And I felt a little bit of heat, a little bit of prickly heat. I didn't sneeze too much or anything. Maybe I did sneeze once or twice. My dog sneezed a few times. So I know she's been exposed to something. But her and I are both very, very adaptable. And we have our first lines of defense figured out. The sneezing, the coughing, the mucus. So we understand the first lines of defense and we don't try to stop it. Okay? And then, yes, there is the second line of defense where it's diarrhea, barfing, and fever. And some of you may trigger the second lines of defense. Okay? And then you don't want to trigger the third line of defense, which is cancer, disease, and chronic illness and autoimmune disorders. Because that means that you don't understand the first lines and the second lines. You're so afraid of them, or you're doing too much of them because you're still on the J juice trying to do all your waterfalls in reaction to, so you can go out there and be in the game. But I'm telling you, being in a cured state will eventually turn you into beef jerky. Do you realize that the mummies out there, yeah, they may have done some stuff to embalm them, but too much salt over years and years, and you're not just a year or so because you're going through a retroactive evolution, but when you're doing chili juice for years and years and years and years, because you don't want to feel pain, you don't want to feel any kind of symptoms, you want to waterfall all the freaking time, then you put yourself in a cured state, which eventually you'll turn into beef jerky. And that's how I'm going to position this in the book, that anytime anyone stays on chili juice for a long, long period, and remember, we've only been around since freaking 2016. So no one has been on the J juice for more than what they should. But if you have been on the J juice for the last 4 years because you're trying to mitigate symptoms, then you've lost you've lost sight of what chili juice is for. It really is for to retroactively make you deal with your predispositions, and you cough out stuff, you actually understand your first lines and your second lines. So that way you don't trigger the third line of defense. And yes, you have to deal with this virus. Yeah, you can go get a therapeutic. That's fine. That's not going to hurt you. You do some J juice, open up the ionic gates, stuff that's been channel blocked or channel opened because of the programming, the viral programming from the therapeutics, and you deal with evolution right there in its most rawest, most purest form. And if you're afraid to deal with evolution, then I'm sorry, nobody can help you. Not even the medical holistic system. Because the amount of viruses that are out there right now are going to do a number on people who are not prepared to deal with evolution. And the fact that you're on your diets, and the fact that you're trying to stay away from GMO, and you're so afraid of bioengineered food will also put you at a deficit because you won't have what it takes. You won't have the covalent bonding and the ionic bonding to handle your environment because the thermodynamics are going to be so exponentially strong that you're going to try and find every way to stop the energy. And I see that also in my Jelly Juice crowd. They're all into their vegan, vegetarian diets. And yeah, okay, you can be vegan with beans and rice, but I see these vegans out there only eating beans, but no rice, no anything else or whatever. But how much beans and rice can you eat all the time? You must have soy and other diverse, complete proteins. But oh yeah, you're afraid of soy. I see these vegan groups. Oh, they're afraid of soy because it's causes hormonal disturbances. Yeah, because you have deficits. You already been channel blocked. You already have viral programming that's conflicting with each other. That's your immune system right now as it stands. Right now, those of you dealing with cancer, disease, and chronic illness, you have conflicting programming in your immune system from viral programming that you don't know which one you want to adopt, the old world or the new world. And so you're in constant conflict. And those that take a side are going to be at the base. And the base will always be compromised and sacrificed because they never rose above to actually allow the intelligence. They're always looking for a cure. They don't want to deal with their pain or their evolution. They don't want to deal with their demons, so to speak. And so anyone that takes a side that doesn't want to deal with pain, doesn't understand evolution, will always be at a base level of existence. And so this is now really the moment of truth. And I told you this summer I was going to prepare you for this next fall because it's going to be a doozy. And it's not going to let up. So you get used to your evolution now and stop trying to think that you're going to be in a cured state forever, because yeah, you're using Jeju, so you don't feel anything. So you're out there traveling and doing all this stuff while in the meantime, your body's getting a number done on it. Well, that's your choice. But now you have the choice. Bye.